You're all right to get past there, yeah? Thanks. Going to be in shot a while. You might be wondering why Bridgewood is on a wooden bridge in South Wales. Well, for good reason. This is the racing bike of former national hill climb champion Dan Evans. And, well, it's pretty awesome, isn't it? It's a Cannondale Supersix Evo high mod, and there's loads of lightweight bits on this to make it as efficient as possible as racing uphill. Dan's running SRAM Red Etap on his hill climb bike, and that's because, well, it's one of the lightest group sets out there, but quite unusually, he's got a standard chain set on the front and not a single ring setup, which is quite popular with hill climb riders because it saves weight. But Dan likes the functionality of having both rings, and he's actually got, well, 39 53 rings on there, which might surprise some people, seeing as this is a bike that's specially for going up really steep climbs. For wheels, Dan has these Hunt Hillclimb Tubulars, and they're, well, ridiculously light. They're about 995 grams a pair, I think, so under a kilo for a set of wheels is, well, seriously light, but they have to be really stiff as well, and Dan tells me that they are that. They certainly haven't slowed him down in the past. And onto those, he's got Vittoria Corsa G tyres, which are very low rolling resistance thanks to the latex inner tubes in them, and they're 23mm front and rear. Some of you might be wondering why Dan has both brakes on his bike. Well, that's because for the British national hill climbs, you have to have two braking systems on your bike. So if you run a single speed bike, then you can get away with having just one brake because the single speed fixed gear counts as another braking mechanism. But this being a freewheel bike means you have to have both brakes still attached and fitted. There's loads of really cool details on this bike. So Powermeter, that's important because, well, for pacing your efforts on longer climbs. And Dan's got a Stages Powermeter on the left crank non-drive side here, which is good because it saves a lot of weight. Some power meters can add quite a bit of weight to a bike. In terms of a stem, he's got this rather smart Deda 0100, which is 130mm long and nice and slammed against the frame, which is a size 54 centimeters. Staying with the cockpit, he's got some little Blip shifters fitted on the bars here, which mean that he can change gear while he's on the tops. And for a head unit, he's got a Garmin 820. Another cool detail I've noticed is Dan has got one of the Ceramicspeed UFO chains, which don't just look awesome with that white coating, they also are specially treated so they reduce drivetrain friction, saving precious watts when you're really putting the power down, especially on those high torque efforts involved in the hill climbs that Dan does. For pedals, he's got Look Keo Blade carbons, but they are the special ones with the titanium axles, which are seriously bling. And these are lightweight, but they're also actually a little bit aero as well, thanks to the blade design. And not a lot of people are aware of that. I've got to pick this bike up and see how light it is. Oh. I'm going to do it little finger. Look at that. And free-up sound check as well. I know you'll all go mental if I don't do it. Sounds good, that, doesn't it? For a saddle, Dan has got a Selle Italia SLR carbon, and this is slammed quite far forwards on the rails. It's a very light saddle. And you may notice as well that there are no bottle cages or bottle cage bolts on Dan's bike, and well, that's because you don't need to drink in the short hill climbs that Dan typically races in. And also, he's got a very nice little name sticker here with the Welsh flag on it. But I think to find out a few more details about Dan's bike, you just ask Dan himself because he's here. Thanks for showing us your bike, Dan.
No probs.
Good to see you. So, how much does this beast weigh?
Right, so at the moment, as it is, it's coming in at 5.5 kilos.
Nice.
You know, that's with the Superlight wheels, but some more robust tyres. Last race I did was Taiwan KOM Challenge, so couldn't use my normal Superlight tyres because, you know, racing over 60k.
Yeah, the roads are a bit rough in places as well.
The KOM roads were fantastic, but heading out there, didn't really know what to expect. Went with the Corsas instead of Corsa Speeds just for a bit of extra durability.
Nice, so that saves a bit of weight there. Are there any other modifications that you make to the bike in order to lose more weight on certain climbs or in peak sort of hill climb season?
Yeah, so certain events, when we get into hill climb season, I'll do all sorts of crazy stuff. You know, I'll take the bar tape off, I'll put some light tubs on, even track tubs sometimes. I can go to single chain ring, either a 40 or a 44 tooth Cannondale Spider ring, which makes the bike mega light. You know, I get it down to just under 5 kilos for racing some of the shorter hill climbs, and it you know, at that weight it's still stiff, it's perfectly rideable, it's just a weapon really.
So why would you choose a standard chain set sometimes in a single ring other times? Like how do you make that choice?
So sometimes you'll have a hill with varying gradients, and it can be very shallow to start with and ramp up at the end, or the other way around. It can start with a real steep ramp and then end up with a flatter tailwind section at the top. So if you have a course like that, you need a big range of gears. You need to be able to put it in the big ring and hammer out the watts if you can get some speed up, but you also need to be able to ride up a 30% gradient and keep the thing moving. So most of the season I like to use a 5339 on the front with an 1128 on the back. That gives me the entire range I need. People often say, oh, you're hill climbing, why don't you use a compact or smaller gears? And you know, for me the idea is that I'm going up these hills quickly, really quickly. So the 39 gives me everything I need really to keep the bike moving. Interestingly, for Taiwan, I fitted a 5034 compact.
Right.
Because I knew I was in for a tough day in the saddle, and after 80k we were hitting 30% gradients. So for that, I fitted a compact.
Were a lot of the other like pros on compacts as well?
Everyone was on compacts. Most with the 32 on the back as well.
Wowzers, wowzers. It does look like a really tough event. Selle Italia SLR, like why have you sort of gone for that saddle?
So I could go for lighter saddles. That comes in at about 100 grams when there's the saddles out there that are 50, 60 grams. It's kind of important for me that I'm comfortable. I think if I'm comfortable and I'm anchoring myself well, I can put more power through the pedals. So the Selle Italia works really well for me. It's what I've always used. You notice I have it quite far forwards.
Yeah.
And that's really to push my position forward on the bike, just so I can generate that bit of extra power. It's maybe not the best position for long, all-day rides, road races, but that's not what I'm doing. I want maximum power out the bike, so that's why I run it all the way forwards. Yeah,
it's quite cool that you don't, you know, you're not sacrificing performance. It's still it's very light, but it's a very functional bike. Because a lot of hill climbers also, and I've done this as well, and I probably wouldn't do it again, but I chop my drops off my bike, but you still got your drops as well.
I wear that as a bit of a badge of honour really, that yeah. I've never taken a hacksaw to my bike. I've never done it in all my years of hill climbing, and I've managed to win quite a few hill climbs without chopping my drops off, so it's something I'm never going to do. I do succumb to that thing of taking the bar tape off. Whether it makes a difference, I don't know, but it's, you know, up here it seems to make a difference for me. So
hope you found this look at Dan's bike interesting, and if you have, then give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to see Dan riding his System 6 in action, and well, it certainly didn't slow him down, you can check him out in a video riding the steepest hill in the world by clicking on his Super 6.